All right, so welcome to the Gains RX podcast, where we talk about fitness, medicine, and mostly mindset as well on how to become the 10.0 version of yourself. Today, we're going to be talking about testosterone, a topic that I think is going to be very important, and especially creating this episode for those that maybe use substances that they should have not used, and right now are paying the consequences of having low testosterone and maybe not being able to function properly. I'm going to talk a little bit about how to start restoring those levels, and also going to talk about maybe that person that is under a lot of stress, that's not getting a lot of sleep, and maybe seeing the effects of testosterone affecting their libido, their energy, etc. Right? So let's jump into it. Okay. So testosterone, obviously, we talked about it in the past episode, male hormone. So if you haven't listened to it, I basically tell you what it does and how it functions. So go back to episode number 2, and that's where I talk about that. It's produced mostly in the balls, in these little cells called Leydig cells, and some of it's produced in the adrenal glands. Just to give you the science of it, when it's produced in the balls, it goes into the into the blood, and in the blood it's bound to this protein called albumin, or to this other protein called sex hormone binding globulin. And so when it's bound to these proteins, it's not really active. And so the active testosterone that will go into the muscles and interact with the androgen receptors in the cell, it's the one that's free, that is not bound to any protein. That's called the free testosterone. Typically between 1% and 2%, maybe 3% in good genetic people. But it's a very small amount. And so a lot of the low testosterone issues that we're going to talk about are related to having that free testosterone pretty low as well. And so there are a few supplements that can help with that, freeing that testosterone up. That way, that free testosterone gets used. Total testosterone is the testosterone that is both combined by bound protein. So the testosterone that gets created in the balls goes into the blood and then gets bound to proteins in the blood, plus the testosterone that it's free to interact with cells and do its job. The whole testosterone, that sum, is the free testosterone. And that's typically what we measure when we're looking at labs. When we go take a blood sample and measure your total testosterone, that is what we're measuring, right? And the amount that you should be looking for, it's somewhere in between 400 nanograms per deciliters to anywhere up to 1,000, right? That's within physiological ranges. Anything under that could be physiological depending on the person, but it's considered low, okay? And so out of that, about 1% to 2%, you're looking at preferably 2%. Anything over 2%, it's going to be free testosterone, right? So when you go do your labs and check for your testosterone, you want to make sure that you check both for total testosterone, but also free testosterone, because you can have a 1,000 testosterone, and then if you have low free testosterone, you're basically going to be experimenting low testosterone effects, right? So let's talk about the active forms of testosterone. You have testosterone, and then when it goes into the cell, it interacts with this enzyme called 5-alpha reductase, and it converts it into DHT. DHT is dihydrotestosterone, and so that is also responsible for some of the male secondary characteristics. And those are the two main forms of testosterone. DHT is a little bit more potent than testosterone, so that's gonna, people that have high testosterone, high DHT levels are gonna eventually have a beard, are gonna have more hair, gonna have hair loss, and so just all of those characteristics of people that have more DHT in their bodies. All right, so first off, let's jump into what happens. How do you restore your low testosterone levels once you get off a cycle, right? Once you've used substances, what happens? So essentially what happens is you took some substances, you suppressed your system for the same reason that we talked about in the last episode, that when you take testosterone, your body thinks, and I mean, it knows that it has testosterone, so it stops producing the natural testosterone that you will produce. So the balls start shrinking because they are not producing testosterone, and then your body's not producing. Now you stop taking testosterone, and once your body excretes all of that testosterone, it metabolizes it. Now you're left with very low testosterone, and what that leads to is low libido, anxiety, depression, no energy, and then just a bunch of shit that basically it's unnecessary. How do you restore that, right? So what's the issue with that? It's Viagra gonna help you. It's Tribulus gonna help you. All these pills are gonna help you. Really, there is no natural. It's time, right? So the main thing that's gonna help you recover without any intervention from medicine, it's gonna be time. So it's gonna take months, anywhere from 3 to 6 to up to 1 to 2 years sometimes, depending on the person, for you to get back to your normal levels. And like I said in the previous episode, once you suppress the hormonal system, your body's never gonna go back to what it was. So if you wanted that process to be a little faster, you can always talk to a doctor. And so the way that typically people do it is by taking this hormone that mimics the gonadotropin in the body of the male. So it's called the HCG. This hormone is typically produced by females when they're pregnant, but this hormone basically interacts with the same receptors in the hypothalamus in your body that lead to the production of this other hormone that's called LH. Okay, so LH is the luteinizing hormone that is going to send the signal to the balls to start producing testosterone. So typically what people do is what they call the post-cycle therapy. And what that does is basically they inject HCG, and that basically mimics the gonadotropin in your body, and that goes up to the hypothalamus, and that will stimulate the release of this other hormone called luteinizing hormone. This luteinizing hormone is going to talk to the balls. Basically it's a hormone, it's endocrine, so it's going to travel to the balls and basically stimulate the production of testosterone. And then you have this other hormone that works together with it called FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, and that's the one that's going to be more responsible for the spermatogenesis. Okay, so that's typically what happens, right? So the first thing that you have to look at when you have low testosterone is you have to go get a lab of these hormones, right? So you have to go look at your LH, at your luteinizing hormone. You have to go look at your FSH. You want to look at your estradiol. So you want to look at your estrogen levels. You might be experiencing side effects of testosterone, of low testosterone, just because you have high estrogen levels. And that's going to basically, if you have that ratio all messed up, so you have more estrogen than testosterone, that is also going to have some other side effects. You're going to get more emotional. You're not going to want to have sex as much, etc. Right? So another hormone that you want to look at is prolactin. If that's elevated, typically by the use of androstenedione derivatives like Trenbolone, Deca, so you're gonna basically have your prolactin levels increase, and that it's also gonna work against your testosterone. So you want to make sure that you take care of that before you can start producing testosterone. Now, all of these things that I'm telling you, you can't just go do on your own, obviously, but it is good that when you go to your doctor, you talk to them and you're honest and transparent with them and tell them, hey, look, I use these substances. I'm feeling these symptoms. Do you think it would be a good idea to check for these hormones and look at the labs and see how we can probably work to restore this? And so the doctor will know what to do, and then they'll figure it out and help you out. So this is the way you would go about when you're trying to restore your testosterone levels after a cycle. If you did it completely wrong and you're just feeling like crap, that's what you do, right? You check your labs, you check what's low, what's high, and then based off that, you take different medications, and that's under supervision of a doctor that will help you restore those testosterone levels. Because if it's a hormonal issue, there is no Viagra, there's no anything else that will help you, because it's in the hormones and it's in the endocrine system, and you have to figure that out, and that gets figured out by medications, right? So that's why, like I said, if you are going to do all of these things, you want to think about everything that goes into it. And at the end of the day, you're going to have to go to a doctor. You're going to have to use intervention because you're not going to feel good. And so that's the part of the substance users. That's the main reason why their testosterone is low. Another reason could be that their percent body fat is just too high. And when your percent body fat is too high, you produce a lot of this enzyme called aromatase. And what this does is it converts testosterone into estradiol, right? So estrogen basically makes your estrogen levels elevated. That's why when people that are obese or overweight get on TRT, prescribed by a doctor, they also get these things called aromatase inhibitors, because they know that if you don't, all this testosterone that's going to go into your body is going to be converted into estrogen. So if your percent body fat is higher than 18, 20%, 25, this might be a reason why you might be having low testosterone, just because you are just producing too much estrogen. And so this goes for both people that used substance in the past and are trying to recover, and people who are low in testosterone, never used substances, and they just don't know what's happening, right? So a lot of people that go into TRT, they are overweight, they have chronic inflammation, they have a terrible diet, and so they want to go into TRT to feel better. But in reality, what you have to do is just change your lifestyle, and you're gonna eventually restore your testosterone levels, because what's happening is that the excess body fat in your body leads to inflammation in your body, which leads to you not producing testosterone because of inflammation. And we'll talk about stress and all of that in a bit, but also because of all of that aromatase in your body that is converting the testosterone into estrogen. All right, so that leads me to restoring and helping people, that regular people, workers, business owners, people who are just like lifting, restoring and helping those people recover the testosterone levels. Okay, so like I said, one of the main reasons why you might have low testosterone is high body fat percentage, and not just because of the high estradiol, but also because the high inflammation that the adipocytes will cause, right? So if you have extra fat to the point where you're obese, the fat cells are going to release cytokines in the body. So basically inflammatory markers that are going to have your body into an inflammatory state. Now, when this happens, there is a relationship between inflammation and cortisol and stress. And so it's all related. And I want you to start thinking about this if you were thinking about surviving versus reproducing, right? So 2,000 years ago, when you're in the woods, you have your little village, and if there are no threats and there is food, your body is able to reproduce because it's safe to reproduce. If you reproduce, you're going to be able to provide for your family, grow family, reproduce. And so we're basically made to be able to reproduce. And so I want you to think about it that way, because anything that presents a threat to reproduction and to you being able to have a life in which you can reproduce safely, it's going to decrease your testosterone levels. So for example, back in the day, when you were in your little village, right, 2,000 years ago, and then you go hunting and you face a bear or something like that, that is definitely not a good moment for you to reproduce. Your body is going to start this thing called the fight or flight response. That is going to increase your cortisol levels. It's going to increase your sympathetic nervous system. And so that is not really at the optimal time to reproduce. Now, what happens is the body is basically still the same as 2,000 years ago. It hasn't evolved that much. And maybe we're not faced with bears and with like physical threats that can kill you, but work stress, relationship stress, inflammation due to obesity, inflammatory foods like sugary foods, lack of sleep, all of those things are basically causing and presenting a threat to us in a way, which means that when those things are present, your body is interpreting that as, look, there's a threat present. This is not a good time to reproduce. So I'm just going to keep my testosterone low, and I'm just going to focus on being able to survive and not able to actually reproduce. So if you want to increase your testosterone levels, we have to look at what are these things in your lifestyle that are representing a threat to your reproduction, so that you can eliminate those as much as possible or mitigate those. That way your body is actually ready to reproduce. And when it's ready to reproduce, you're going to start producing more testosterone. So if you think about it, if you've been in a position where you have a lot of stress at work, and you know, during that time you're interacting with a partner sexually, and you notice that your performance is not the same, right? Whenever you are sick, whenever you have stuff going on, you have lack of sleep, you have a lot of anxiety, you have inflammation, you don't perform as well. And that's because of that reason, right? Obviously there are physiological reasons, And the main reason is that chronic stress, like you're stressed, you have a crazy lifestyle, chronic inflammation, which is caused by obesity, if you have a high salt diet, you're putting extra work on the kidneys, that it's also another factor for you to be able to not produce the optimal amounts of testosterone. So all of these things will affect your testosterone production. And I want you to understand is that there's a relationship between cortisol and testosterone, and it's inverse. High cortisol levels, meaning high inflammation, high stress in your body has to take care of business, right? So that the main focus of your body in that moment is to reduce inflammation, to get back to homeostasis. Once it's back into homeostasis, now your body can start producing more testosterone, right? Now you can start reproducing, because what would be the point of you reproducing if you're under a threat, right? So hopefully that makes sense. And so that's really the way I want you to think about this. And this is why it's so important that you understand that for you to have an optimal performance, optimal life, that you can enjoy, have energy, and reproduce and not have issues with any of that, is you want to reduce your body fat percentage. You want to take care of your sleep, not because I want you to sleep more, but because during sleep a lot of that inflammation gets recovered, right? I want you to stop eating as much sugar, because sugar is an inflammatory product, right? So it's going to cause inflammation. Your body's going to have your glucose go crazy, and so you don't want that. So food, stress, and sleep are going to be the main factors, on top of, like, obviously you want to have a lifestyle that's active, that you're exercising. More muscle mass is going to help you have more testosterone. Less muscle mass is going to be related to less testosterone. So you want to have a routine in which you go hit the weights. Resistance training is the best thing you can do to optimize your testosterone levels as far as muscle building goes, right? Some of the reasons why you might be in low testosterone if you're not obese, it's just a very low caloric intake, right? You're just not eating enough, and that just tells the body you're not really ready. You're not starved. You're not, like, you're just basically starving yourself. Your body wants to find food and be able to eat and provide for your future offspring before it starts reproducing. So that could be a reason, right? So what you want to do with your food is you want to eat enough calories. If you're not obese, you want to eat enough calories to either maintain your weight or gain a little bit of weight. You want to have some muscle, and you want these calories to be from a good source, right? You don't want all crappy food. You want to have veggies, fruits, and all of these colorful things that basically the function is going to be anti-inflammation. And like we talked about, inflammation is a bad thing for testosterone. Inflammation is a bad thing for your system. It leads to disease. It leads to metabolic syndrome. Inflammation, it's the enemy. Fruits, vegetables, all these foods that contain antioxidants, anti-inflammatory molecules are going to help you reduce that inflammation. That's why we eat them, right? It's not that because they taste great, because I understand that I prefer to eat a little piece of bread over a serving of strawberries. But at the end of the day, when you think about your long-term health, if you gotta eat the strawberries, just eat the strawberries, right? Now, supplementation, as far as helping you boost your testosterone levels, these supplements that I'm going to talk about, they're going to help you if you're deficient on them, which most Americans are not really eating properly, and you're probably going to be deficient in some of these supplements. So zinc, magnesium, boron, vitamin D. As far as science goes, research papers, those are the main four that deficiency of them will lead to low testosterone levels. Magnesium can help with inflammation, big time anti-inflammatory. And remember, if you reduce inflammation, you're automatically increasing testosterone. Magnesium and boron can help free up some of that testosterone that's in the body. So you remember how we talked about testosterone, that it's bound to protein. So some of that protein and that sex hormone binding globulin can be released by the body if you have enough magnesium. Boron can also do this. So sometimes if you want to increase your free testosterone levels, people will take magnesium and boron. You can do some research on that. Zinc, anti-inflammatory. So basically it's going to directly play a role in the stimulation of you remember how we talked about LH, luteinizing hormone, talking to the ladies, to your balls to produce testosterone? That interaction right there, zinc is involved. So it's very important for you to have zinc in that to be able to produce testosterone. It's also gonna, have a role in the process itself. It's gonna be an anti-inflammatory as well. It's gonna help you sleep better. So vitamin D as well, it's directly involved in the production, in the metabolism of cholesterol, and cholesterol eventually leads to testosterone. It's super important that you have those levels optimized for you to be able to produce the right amounts of testosterone. Okay, so I'm not gonna go crazy into science here, into how this works, but these are supplements that if you're low on them, and you can check that by just simply getting a metabolic panel and just checking for these basically minerals in your body, you can figure that out pretty quickly. Okay, so guys, really, that's it. This is not super complex. Basically, what we've talked about today is that testosterone is produced in your balls, and your balls won't produce as much if your body is going through a lot of stress and inflammation, and that stress and inflammation, chronic, could be caused or are caused by obesity, by lack of sleep, inactivity, obviously, eating crappy food, and basically stress related to lifestyle. A lot of stress from work, a lot of stress from relationships, or just living a very stressful lifestyle. Obviously, drinking is going to affect you, smoking, everything that causes inflammation, it's going to lead to a decrease in testosterone levels, right? So hopefully you understand the relationship between testosterone and stress, between testosterone and cortisol, and you can start making a little bit of lifestyle changes towards reducing that inflammation through your diet, through losing body fat, through getting better sleep, through changing your lifestyle. That way your testosterone levels improve, and you can actually live a better life. You can be more present as a dad, as a man for your wife, and you can just be more focused at work and be more on your purpose, on your mission, which is what testosterone is going to help you do. It's not just going to help you build muscle, it's going to help you be more focused on your mission, on your purpose. And if you're a substance user that didn't know how to do a post-cycle therapy and got your testosterone messed up, definitely get some lab work. You want to check your luteinizing hormone. You want to check your follicle stimulating hormone. You want to check your estradiol. You want to check for your prolactin levels. You want to check for your testosterone levels, obviously. And you want to check for your vitamin D levels, right? So make sure you get all this lab work done. Make sure you talk to a doctor. Be straight up honest with the doctor. It's fine. Doctors see crazy things every day, and we really prefer when people are honest with us. So, all right, fam. I hope this was helpful. And in the next few, this is basically next few episodes, we're going to be deriving from this topic of substances and testosterone. And we're going to start getting more into building muscle, building your diet, what foods should you eat, and basic stuff that is going to basically help you keep those gains going. All right. So stay tuned and share if you enjoy.